Hi, this is Kathryn M. Davis, and I am here with artist Erik Gellert. We are going to be having a discussion of his work. He's a ceramist whose show, Out of Square, is currently here. You can see it at David Richard Gallery in Santa Fe, in the project room. And it will be up through November 3rd, so be sure and come down here and take a look at it for yourself. We are also wired ridiculously for sound because the paparazzi are out there. We're testing some new mics and that sort of thing, so please bear with us. We don't think that we're that famous, do we?
No.
No.
Okay.
We're not suffering that delusion. Erik, you and I have had discussions before, and I'm really looking forward to this one because you've virtually flipped your work upside down.
Indeed.
And that's one of the first things that we need to talk about. First of all, well, no, let me not describe your work. Let me have you describe what you're doing. Give us a sense of this body of work, and especially how you came, those of you who, if you haven't seen Erik's work before, imagine these pieces flipped and the more organic coiled parts of it extruding or almost growing from, I don't remember plinths, but being these rather organic forms on their own. So something has happened. Were you visited by aliens?
Close.
Okay, let's hear about it.
Well, my previous work, like Kathryn was describing, was purely coiled, and primarily the forms were in the form of a square. The pieces that I've been showing the past couple of years here at David Richard. And
not to put an inelegant term to it, but it really reminded me of ramen when you take it out of the package. That square noodly, that's why it seems so organic to me, because it literally reminds me of something that you can put in your mouth and eat. And clay in itself, is of the earth, and that's where our food comes from. So there's such a strong sense of the organic nature of the materials that you're using. So go ahead, please. So
right,
you switched the ramens.
Yeah, so I was making these kind of squarish forms, putting these two different worlds together, the natural and the kind of the man-made square form.
But that wasn't square enough for
you? It wasn't square enough for me. You got it. And I would look at these pieces and it kind of drove me a little bit crazy.
Really? It was still, what was it? Was it still a little too soft? A little too natural looking?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And so since then I got a job at the community college. A lot of changes has happened.
Tell us about that.
I'm the ceramics tech there.
Great.
And I'm expected to do things like build things out of normal building materials, not clay. So I have to utilize these construction techniques from kind of the construction world, which I've always avoided in my life. I used to be a house painter, so it was always smoothing things. It was not measuring, nothing like that. So these square forms weren't square enough. I felt like I needed to get more square, and so I built a mold and started building these square pieces from a mold to get that really, really square effect, coupling it with the really natural effect of the coils.
For me, it's as if the plinth has been reversed. The function of the plinth, which normally is a structure, a base, a square base that you put, or a rectangular that you put a sculpture on top of, has been reversed here. So there's a sense of capping these pieces, and then with that, conversely, there's a sense that are they trying to somehow escape through? And then the other thing I was interested in is, and we'll talk, I want to break all this down a little bit further, but I was also really interested in the fact that you've worked as an art restorer, correct?
Not art restorer.
Oh, okay.
I was a preservationist in Frank Lloyd Wright homes. So kind of similar, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because, first of all, these are very architectural forms,
Mhm.
obviously, and now I can see why you said that those squares, the previous squares, squared ramen,
Yeah,
just didn't work for you. Coming from a Frank Lloyd Wright home, that was not square enough. That was
No.
not angular enough. It didn't have that tension, that kind of soaring sense to it. But you're also, and this might be a reflection of your job as a tech person who has to know how to do this. You're giving off a really strong sense of knowing how to do all different kinds of glazes and
Yeah.
finishes, and there is a sense of antiquities even being referenced here.
Mm.
What do you feel about that?
for me, I'm not trying to reference anything except
Uh-huh.
for, I'm trying to integrate my whole life experience as I'm going
Right.
along and gather ideas. And I kind of see these pieces as almost like waking dreams. You have a dream, and sometimes you can just suss it out. You're like, oh yeah, that's why I had that dream.
Right.
This event happened and that made this person come into my dream. With these pieces, sometimes I'll go around town and see objects that I've been walking by, the path every day and never really notice, and then I'll realize I've made a sculpture out of this tree. But this is a little bit more symbolic. It's more trying to integrate this square world and the natural world together.
Right.
And so I've had a lot of life experience lately. Yeah, my father passed away, and that was difficult. And integrating that whole process and him as a person and my reflection of him, and dealing with that, our idiosyncrasies,
My
our perfectionism,
condolences. I lost my mother this year earlier too. Do these boxes have any sense of being reliquaries to you then? Or are they a place to put memories or subconscious nonverbal feelings?
I wouldn't
Okay.
say so.
You
But
don't
you
have to
may
say
more,
something.
you may know more than I do.
No, I
Because
don't.
like I said, it's like I discover more and more about the work as time goes by. Those more square forms also, more recently, I've kind of thought of them to be more impersonal also.
Yeah.
More like
right.
wall and a division,
Right.
and setting up this kind of a comfort zone between me and the audience. And these are much more animated. I felt like I needed to get more in touch with people somehow. Whereas before I'd been kind of thinking that my work was going to do all this stuff for me. It was going to make personal connections for me. All these things that are very difficult for me to do. I thought, I'll make these grandiose,
It'll make you
elaborate,
richer, more
everything,
attracted
yeah.
to the opposite sex, more intellectual,
Right.
yet funnier.
Of course.
Right, yeah, that's why we all went to the arts.
And so I figured, well, maybe at least it can make me happy and make me discover more about myself,
Yeah.
So I didn't consciously think that, but I've kind of narrowed it down to let's just focus on that more than anything else. Yeah, and also, yes, these pieces are glazed, which is different. The stain on the forms to accentuate the coil nature, it just got kind of old hat for me. And working at the community
Right.
college, I load kilns, mix glazes, and I wasn't using glaze, and I would see all these beautiful glazed objects come out, and I needed to integrate that. Also, my fiance Esther, we share a studio together, and she has created some of these glazes. The green glaze here are actually her formulations.
Those
And
are
I've
some
been-
of my favorites.
Yeah, and I've been helping her photograph her pieces, seeing these pieces day in, day out,
Right.
helping her take them to the market and sell them on Saturdays, and I just think, wow, it would be great to use these somehow in a different way. And she was, kind enough to allow me to borrow some of these glazes. So.
Well, so there is that sense of the everydayness of objects and also our thoughts. I'm going to keep coming back to this because this is what it invokes for me, is there's always that squishy, and your coiled, the parts of your sculptures that are coiled look as if they were very squishy before they were fired. And there's that juvenile part of me who wants to just grab and squeeze and see if I can make it do something. So there's that, that place of ambiguity between hard-edged angles and glazing and color and squishy subconscious black and white that really is about being gray as opposed to black or white. There's that tension. And then by inverting these pieces, for what I'm used to seeing by you, that added a lot of tension for me, because as I've mentioned, they feel like they're being weighed down,
Yeah.
or restricted somehow. And they also feel as if they might be trying to emerge from that restriction.
Yeah, definitely. And some more so than others, like this crush, you can obviously see even some of those coils have separated. And due to the weight of the box, and the tables here,
Right.
more or less, are much different, yeah. And so for me, that's definitely part of it. And this is more feeling like me. You know, I've kind of felt
A little more crushed.
a little more crushed the past. I've been very heavy, you know,
Yeah.
very heavy and very introspective.
Right.